Welcome to Exhuming the Truth, the podcast where we delve into mysterious worlds of cold cases, missing persons, true crime, and the fascinating science that is forensics. I'm forensic scientist and criminologist Asha Walther, and I am so thrilled to have you with me on this journey as we dance in the shadows of the world of crime, shining a light on scientific discovery while becoming another voice for those who need it most. So grab a drink and get comfy while we jump into this episode together. As always, I would like to extend a content and trigger warning. This podcast is recommended for persons over the age of 18 and contains explicit content not suitable for minors. We will be covering sensitive content that ranges from sexual assault, physical, mental, social, and emotional abuse, suicide, homicide, murder, attempted murder, and other violent crimes, including crimes involving weapons and drugs. This often extends to drug misuse and other harmful and illegal activity. If you find any content to be distressing, I have listed a number of resources that may be able to help you in the podcast notes. I would like to remind all of our listeners that all victims and all offenders are someone's loved one, so I ask that we keep any discussions in our group or on any of our social accounts respectful of that at all times. Hello, my beautiful podcast family. I hope you have had a beautiful weekend. It was absolutely freezing here in Perth, and I know everyone in other states are thinking, really, was it that cold? And yes, it was. It was thunderstorms. I had ice on my car for the first time ever, and my youngest still persevered and played Auskick on Sunday, so we got to stand there in the freezing cold rain and watch him. But at least he persevered. He had a good time. So I'm really looking forward to some nicer weather. But that's not going to happen yet, is it? Because it's winter time. So there's a lot going on in the news and the media right now, and there's a lot going on that is not in the news and the media right now. Sorry, I don't know. I've just lost my words. I've got so many case requests right now, and I'm super dedicated to getting those done. But my most exciting news that I have for you is that I think our missing persons event is going to be able to go ahead with a couple of changes. So the first change being that I did try and get in with two councils which were not really cooperating. They weren't super interested because the event is not to bring them money. So I actually had somebody else reach out to a different council on my behalf, which worked out quite well. So it's not 100% locked in, but I'll let you know when it is and if it is. And if it is, it will be in Rockingham. So Rockingham Council have been really positive and lovely to work with. The second biggest change is I was going to do it in the week of National Missing Persons Day in Australia. But I have chosen to move it to the International Day of Missing Persons, and that's for two reasons. The first reason is the AFP do, well, not so much events, but they, do a lot of advertising in that Missing Persons Week in Australia, and I kind of just wanted to leave them to their own devices and let them do their thing. And I also wanted to choose International Day over National Day because there's a lot of family members of our Aussie missing persons who are overseas. There's a lot of people who've come from overseas who are missing. So I just wanted to include everybody and it to get as much recognition as possible. So that's the first reason. Second reason is there's obviously not a lot of time between now and then if we chose the week of National Missing Persons Day. And I want as much time as possible because I want to make it as best as I can for all of the families involved. So today, this episode might be a little bit lengthy. So, get comfortable or do half and half, or start cleaning even. I like to chuck my headphones on and do some housework while I'm listening to the podcast that I listen to. So whatever you got to do. But this is a really important case. And it's particularly important to me because when I had graduated and I had the idea for this business, it was before my own personal court case. And I had picked up my very first job with my very first family that were willing to give me a go and let me work for them and let me help them. And I will be forever grateful to this family for allowing that to happen. Of course, I then went to court quite soon after that, and my business idea was brought up in court. Why am I telling you this? Because I think it's important. That was a very traumatic experience for me, and most things that came up in court over those couple of weeks, I just couldn't even touch anymore or look at. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to know it, and I ended up getting quite unwell mentally and with an eating disorder from dealing with the consequences from that court. So it literally took a number of years for me to be able to reopen this business, do what I want to do with it, which is what I'm doing now. And that family that gave me a chance in the start is the family of Aaron Clear, particularly his sister Cassandra. I've been chatting with her the entire time. She even allowed me to come back and pick this case back up and do my best for their family, despite my own struggles and sort of going off the grid for a little bit. So I'm forever grateful to Cassandra for allowing me back in and for allowing me in the first place to be able to tell Aaron's story, to be able to tell their story, and to be able to help them on their path to justice. And there's a lot of roadblocks in this story, unfortunately. And again, it's so easy when you're looking at a missing persons case to go, like, this is a missing persons case, and not all of them get solved. But at the end of the day, none of us expect our loved one to go missing, and everybody deserves to be found, and every family deserves closure. So, this is a particularly important one to me, and I hope that you see it through to the end. I did tell Cassandra that, yes, we're going to do this episode, and I really want to do it justice, and I think to be able to do that, it's going to be over a couple of episodes. There is a lot of information here, and there's also a lot of lack of information, which is also very telling. So this episode is called, Where is Aaron Clear? Who was Aaron Clear? Aaron Clear was 45 years old when he vanished. A brother, a son, a cousin, an uncle, a nephew, a friend, a father, and a grandfather. Aaron lived a nomadic lifestyle, but he never missed a birthday or Christmas. He had brown eyes and brown/red hair and stood around 170 centimeters tall. While he moved around often, Aaron was always in touch with family until he wasn't. Now, guys, I'm taking you to the state of New South Wales, and we're going to just jump right back to March 2020, okay? And this was the last time that Aaron was seen. So March 2020, Aaron had appeared at a Belmont courthouse. This was his last confirmed sighting. Despite some reports claiming he was last seen around Christmas, court records prove March 2020 was the final verified appearance. This reported sighting of around Christmas time was actually Aaron's friend and not Aaron. So we need to remove that from our minds. You will read it here and there, but it is March 2020 that we are focusing on. So let's go to December 2020. Okay, a Centrelink letter was sent to his father's address, and this triggered concern. So Aaron didn't have a fixed address. He would use typically his father's address for all of his mail, and that would be sent there. And as he was in regular contact with his family members, including his father, he would attend his father's house and collect his mail and had a few bits and pieces of his belongings at his father's house. So jump forward now to January in 2021. After multiple failed attempts, Aaron was finally officially reported missing. But this delay wasn't through neglect, okay? So the family had actually tried twice before this incident to report Aaron missing, but they weren't taken seriously. I want to go into relationship history and red flags in this story, and I want you to listen as closely as you can, because Aaron had quite a turbulent history with some of the people that he would hang around. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Aaron's former partner and her movements surrounding Aaron and Aaron's life while he was here and when he was missing. And for privacy and legal reasons, we are only going to call her former partner, okay? So his former partner had a volatile relationship with him, so much so that she actually took out an AVO against him. But in doing this, she actually never stayed away from him. In fact, she was the one who would collect Aaron and take him to the police station for his reporting appointments. And she would also take him to court and collect him from court, even during the AVO period. The former partner actually later fraudulently accessed Aaron's Centrelink account. So she was lodging forms to Centrelink, and she ended up collecting over $18,000 worth of Centrelink benefits that were for Aaron. She then went on to admit that she met with Aaron several times in 2020 to hand over cash, yet no one else saw Aaron during that entire period. That's a period of 8 to 9 months, you guys. So she's claiming that she is the only one who saw him in that time. And to be super clear, the former partner regularly lodged these forms on a fortnightly basis. So this was like fortnightly for around 9 months, and this is when he was reported missing. So when the former partner was actually requested to appear in court, she started claiming poor mental health. She, in the end, appeared in court via video link because her and her parents, shortly after Aaron went missing, they actually moved interstate to Queensland. So she has appeared in this court hearing via video link, and it's alleged that her mother was actually off camera feeding her answers. And you can also read that in the court transcript. The judge acknowledges that when she's answering questions, you can hear somebody else. And the judge actually speaks and says, hey, like, I'm giving you a verbal warning because you need to be in that room alone. So that's actually acknowledged in the court transcripts that she had somebody there and somebody in there feeding her answers. But in her testimony, interestingly, this court case was over the fraud and her collecting benefits that she wasn't entitled to. They were for Aaron. That was Aaron's payments. She appeared via video link and contradicted herself in her statements, like throughout the entire testimony. She was literally saying, like, 1 second she's saying she feared Aaron, she was terrified of him, but then the next minute she's saying that she willingly met with him every fortnight across 9 months in various locations. That doesn't add up to me. She flat out refused any cooperation at any stage with the police. She actually never spoke with the police. And as I said, her and her parents moved to Queensland very quickly after Aaron went missing. It's also known that the parents also spoke on her behalf a lot of the time, like when the police would go there for statements or questioning, or even to say, hey, you've got to go to court. The parents would say, you can't talk to her. Her mental health is very poor and you're giving her anxiety and causing all of this stress. So when, they've requested the statements from the police, well, there is none because she didn't give one. We're going to jump back to this former partner, but I'm going to give you a little more info on the details surrounding reporting Aaron missing and also the timeline of his disappearance. So you get a bit of an idea. Oh my gosh, been talking long. So you get a bit of a better idea, rather, around the circumstances. So when we're talking about inaction, as I always say to you guys, the first 48 hours, it's a TV show for a reason, the first 48. That is the hottest time in a person's gone missing or any case. You're more likely to solve or resolve a case in the first 48 hours. It's very, very important. And inaction, it plays a very big role in Aaron's case, unfortunately. Now, Aaron's father actually passed away in late 2020. And in the lead up to him passing away, he had been unwell. He had been in aged care and then he was in hospital. And it was quite a period of time that the family were looking after their dad. And there was a lot going on in each of the family members' personal lives. And a typical time for them would be they'd hear from Aaron, for special events like birthdays and Christmas and Easter. And Aaron would, of course, be going to the father's place because he had belongings there, he had his mail there. So it wasn't uncommon for them to, not hear from him every day. but there would always be a bit of gap in between contact. But his family were always his anchor. They were always there for him. He has very loving siblings and loving parents. And Cassandra stressed that when their father actually fell ill, that was really when their suspicions started growing, because it was very unlike Aaron to not be there for his father should he need him, particularly if he was unwell. So if we're looking at their father passing away in late 2020, and as I said, in the lead up, he was quite unwell. So they started to get suspicious and were sort of stressed and trying to contact Aaron saying, Dad's unwell, you need to come and see him. And now after the father's death, the family actually tried again. They were continuously trying really throughout this whole time. But once the dad had passed, they were like, right, something is definitely wrong because we cannot contact Aaron. They were brushed off. This was around the time they tried to report him missing again, and they were brushed off again. And his family actually had to fight to get Aaron on the missing persons register and have him officially listed as a missing person. There are records of the 3 times that they have gone in there to do so, and it's very disappointing, the inaction here, and that they were only taken seriously the 3rd time. So it wasn't until 2021, like I said earlier, on the 3rd attempt that New South Wales police finally took the report seriously. So with that, we're going to go into the timeline surrounding his disappearance, give you a bit of background. I'm not going to put a whole heap of info there. It's just going to be very dot point so that it's easy for everyone to understand. And then I think when we do a follow-up episode, we can redo the timeline and we can go into it with a bit more detail. So let's get familiar with this timeline. I'm going to take you to 2015. Okay, it's October, and the former partner was introduced to everybody around that time. So they had been together for quite some time. So we're jumping forward to 2019. On the 12th of January, Aaron was incarcerated. On the 11th of May, he was released. At the 13th of May, he had contacted his mother via Facebook Messenger. The same again on the 10th of June, he had contacted his mother. So Aaron used Facebook Messenger very often as a means of communication with the family. The 30th of August 2019, he did message on Messenger again, just letting family know that he had a breakup with his partner in a motel and he was feeling very alone. The following day is the 31st, where he continued Facebook contact. Now, the 24th of December in 2019, it's noted that he was at his father's house. Now, the address of his father was in Belmont North. Now, the 26th of December 2019, he was at Cassandra's house, which is in Lake Munmora. Now we're going into 2020, the 6th of January, he had sent a message on Facebook Messenger letting people know that he'd found a place to live near Morisset and Dora Creek. And as I said, he didn't have a fixed address, so this was probably good news for everybody to get. The 5th of February, he was stopped at Fassifern Station by police and he was ticketed for not having a train ticket on him. The 5th of the 2nd again, we've got a couple of movements with his Commonwealth Bank card at places like 7-Eleven and Woolworths and things like that. Same again on the 25th and the 26th. This is just showing proof of life, essentially. He had used his card, but his bank account was closed towards the end of February. He was then arrested early March at Valentine and appeared in the Belmont court on the 2nd of March, and he was also released that same day. And then the 27th of March, the family had started to clean out their father's house. Now, this is because he was beginning to get unwell, as I believe, and the house was quite cluttered. So they just needed to organise everything. And in that, they were in contact with Aaron because he had a lot of his belongings there in a room, and they could contact him then and say, hey, we're cleaning out Dad's place. What do you want to keep and what can we throw away? And that was the nature of the discussion. Then mid-2020, so the 10th of September to around the 1st of October, their father was in respite care. So again, they're still trying to contact Aaron this time via phone, text, messenger, and they were also contacting his former partner, who was his partner at the time. Come late 2020, their father was admitted to hospital, and then he eventually passes away on the 29th of November 2020, and his funeral was the 8th of December 2020. So again, that was a huge red flag for them. They couldn't contact Aaron. They were having no luck with his then partner, and he also didn't show up at the funeral. Now, his father's address was still as his fixed mailing address. So around the 20th of December 2020, a Centrelink letter arrived at the father's address, which sparked great concern to the family, saying that his Centrelink payments were going to cease because they had not heard from him in regard to reporting. Of course, this sparked concern, as I said, and that actually triggered the third missing persons report attempt, and that's where it was actually finally officially filed. Now, 2021, the 11th of January, the police then went to Bonnells Bay, and this is where the former partner was living. So they've gone to this Bonnells Bay address to find the former partner, but only her parents were present. Now, whether the former partner was inside or not is unknown, but her parents basically spoke on her behalf and said, she's not doing well mentally and you can't talk to her. So come at the 2nd of the 2nd, Jennifer, who is another sister of Aaron, she had attempted that missing person report and that was accepted. So sorry, I'm going to go back. The 20th of the 12th triggered the missing person report, and it was finally accepted on the 2nd of the 2nd. So they were given a missing persons report number on that date, and the officer in charge, and that was at Toukley Police Station. So come 2022, the 12th of the 9th, so the 12th of September, the family released a public statement via the media, and as I believe it, this is kind of the only publicity that it got, unfortunately, despite the family being open and willing. The 12th of the 10th, Aaron actually became a grandfather. So his lovely daughter had a daughter herself. So again, these are just milestone events after he was reported missing that the family know he just never would have missed. Now, the key takeaways from this, I know it's a bit of a jumble at this moment, but the key takeaways in this timeline, I would say, is the former partner having a history of avoiding questioning, and that's with family and authority. She was just not willing to talk to anybody, and she made no police statement whatsoever. She had fraudulently claimed that $18,393 in Aaron's Centrelink payments, and that was between March and December 2020. So there was no verified sightings of Aaron after March 2020, even though the former partner is coming and saying, oh, yes, well, I was only collecting those payments to give to Aaron and I was doing it fortnightly and I saw him every fortnight for 8 or 9 months when not a single soul saw him in that period. And that is a massive takeaway, and I really want people to focus on that because there's a lot to be said for people who say nothing. We had access to quite a number of medical reports for Aaron, and I think they're really important to go over a couple of points on there as well. For things like Aaron going in for treatment at Lake Macquarie Recovery Service for around 4 months. This was primarily for alcohol and substance abuse. So it's absolutely no secret, and the family are more than happy to share. It's no secret that Aaron did struggle with substance abuse and alcohol abuse. And you guys know my stance on that. A missing person is a missing person. And a lot of the time, we are doing this for the family and we're not here to judge, and everybody deserves to be looked for. And, as Cassandra says, she doesn't want to paint her brother as like this perfect saint, but he is her brother and he is very loved by so many people. And the fact that he was in treatment for 4 months, I think that shows us that he was acknowledging that he had a problem and he was trying to get help. He did struggle. In the notes, it says he did struggle with the group environment. and he had a lot of depressive symptoms. He presented as depressed. He had an erratic appetite. He was irritable. He had poor sleeping patterns, and they'd actually prescribed him antidepressants, which he really didn't benefit from. So a magistrate in the end actually ordered him to Miracle Haven the year prior. So again, this is showing us that he was putting in an effort. I mean, even though he was ordered by the court on that occasion, he was very open. Like, the medical records show the conversations they had with Aaron, and he was very open about his struggles. And so due to that ineffective antidepressant treatment, they stopped those and replaced it with a different medication. And this is the part that really got me. It made me really quite sad, because I do try and look as a human rights activist at the systemic issues and where did we go wrong and what areas went wrong that we can improve. And I think this is a massive one. And yes, the police inaction is huge. But the medical care, would things have been different if he was taken seriously when he was seeking medical care? Because in the reports, he said he felt hopeless, worthless, and he said he would cry a lot sometimes for no reason. And this made me really, really sad, because a lot of the time when we have somebody who is addicted to substances and addicted to alcohol, it's very hard for those people to even acknowledge or take accountability for the problems and the struggles that they're having, let alone want to seek help. And I think that's very telling to his character, that he was a very strong person to admit that, as a man, he cries a lot sometimes. He feels hopeless. He feels worthless. And I think, how could they have just not done more in this instance? And how could he have been released from such important treatment to, the public with no fixed address? Aaron had no address. Like, they knew that he was homeless, and for them to say, okay, here's an antidepressant, off you go, that makes me really sad. And it makes me think that there was a lot that could have been done differently. And would it have been different if Aaron had stayed in care a bit longer, and if he had been hooked up with services to help him get a bit more security in his accommodation? So that's another big systemic failure, I think, in this case. And it really does make me sad. Reading those medical files, they opened my eyes a little bit to this case, and I feel quite sad for him. Now, the police and the detectives in charge, they have changed a few times, because it has been a few years, let's face it, it's 2025. But they put together a bunch of files when a coronial inquest is coming up, like one is here, and they have to summarise their findings, essentially. So they've summarised their findings as a inspector, and I've summarised their findings to give you the best parts of the facts, to give the best picture I can. So in summarising the police findings, I've written this. In December 2022, Detective Senior Constable Mason compiled a detailed police report outlining the investigation into the disappearance of Aaron Clear, a vulnerable 45-year-old man with a long history of substance use, mental health issues, and a highly transient lifestyle. Aaron, described as dishevelled and scruffy, suffered from bowel and heart problems and had been hit by a bus in the mid-2000s. He had a number of police events on record, and he was no stranger to addiction. Aaron didn't maintain stable housing and often camped in bushland across Belmont North and surrounding areas. He had been out of consistent contact with family before, but this was their pattern. Alarm bells rang when his father passed in late 2020, and Aaron was nowhere to be found. This triggered the official missing persons report in February 21. His last confirmed sighting by police was in March 2020 when he appeared at Belmont Court. His former partner claimed to be the last person to see him in October or November 2020, stating that she had met up with him to give him his Centrelink payments, yet no records or witnesses support her story. Not even any phone records from her mobile shows calls from public phones or from Aaron. Police investigated various leads, including locations Aaron was known to frequent, such as homeless shelters and drug hangouts, but no one had seen him. the former partner's credibility came into question. She was evasive with police. She refused interviews, and her parents admitted she was undergoing psychological care for alleged abuse suffered during their relationship. Notably, the former partner continued receiving Aaron Clear's Centrelink payments until November 2020, after he was reported missing and after saying she hadn't seen him. The records show she updated his Centrelink details online every 2 weeks. Other witnesses linked Aaron to drug activity with his former partner. They could confirm his instability, and they described different instances suggesting that he may have been desperate. Yet no confirmed sightings of Aaron's exists after March 2020, with the last potential unverified sighting being at Belmont Shopping Centre, for which there's no footage. Despite extensive land searches, Facebook tip-offs, and subpoenaed interviews, police conclude that only the former partner had any real contact with Aaron in his final known months. A court attendance notice was eventually served on her, but her story remains riddled with inconsistencies and contradictions. As the inquest looms, one thing is clear: Aaron disappeared into the margins, but the trail doesn't vanish without questions. Now, this inquest had begun. It was 1 day in court, and then it was adjourned for 6 weeks. Now, the inquest hearing is actually scheduled for September the 10th at Toronto Court in New South Wales. We are inviting and welcoming everyone and anyone, friends of Aaron's or people in the local area that are willing to go in support of Aaron and his family. Cassandra and I have chatted about this numerous times, about how important it is to show that there are support for this case, because it is well known that a judge or a couple of judges there, they do not want to do coronial inquests for missing persons. They don't find a purpose in it, and there is a purpose in it, and it is a person's life. And if I was in the position, I would fly down there and be there for the court case. I'm unsure yet if I will be able to do that, but I would love to rally people to go and support the family and show the coroner, like, hey, we're here because we want answers for this family. Please help them. So this is September the 10th, as I said. Cassandra and I also spoke about a GoFundMe, and in typical, she's a beautiful person, and every single person I managed to speak with in regards to all these cases are really lovely people, and they all have one thing in common, and it's that they think that their case is not as important as the next person's case, or they think they're not deserving of setting up a GoFundMe. And it's so hard to tell them that they are deserving, and Aaron is deserving, and every case is deserving of setting up a GoFundMe. And I think Cassandra may have agreed to setting one up. If she does, I will share it, and I really hope she does, because I want to be able to show her that people do want to help, and whether that's by sacrificing their coffee for the day and donating that money, they will do that. And sometimes people want to help, but they can't help physically, so they want to donate. So I think it is a very good idea, and it will help the family continue the investigation after the coroner's court, because we don't want this to go cold. Now, as we close this initial episode on Aaron Clear's story, I want to leave you with more than just questions. I want to leave you with a call to action. We spoke about Aaron being more than just Aaron. He's a son. He has got a mum who is just absolutely desperate for answers. He's a brother, a cousin, a friend, an uncle, a father. He's so many things to so many people. The family have many people checking in to see if there's any progress. And how heartbreaking to put yourself in that position. Aaron mattered. And right now this family is living in a painful limbo that none of us can relate to. They're desperate for answers, desperate for truth, and they need their community to stand beside them. If you know anything, even something that seems small or insignificant, please come forward. Silence protects no one but the guilty, and Crime Stoppers is always anonymous. At Exhuming the Truth, we believe that stories like Aaron's deserve to be seen and heard and investigated properly. And that's why his case will now be featured on our website with updates, contact points, and any new developments as they unfold. This will not be the last you hear of Aaron on the podcast. We're going to be doing follow-up episodes to ensure his story stays in the public eye until his family gets the justice they deserve, and we're going to do our best to not let this case go cold. In the meantime, please share this episode. Share it far and wide as much as you can. Please talk about Aaron. Remind people that behind every headline is an actual grieving family still waiting to be heard. We're stronger when we care for each other, and Aaron's family needs that strength now more than ever. So I want to say again a huge thank you to Cassandra and Aaron's family for allowing me to help you and allowing me to rehash this story that probably cuts deeper every time you hear it, because it brings out so many systemic injustices and of course, we need to surround them as a community and give as much help as we can. And I know that you guys are great at doing this. So I hope that you continue to do that for Aaron and his family. Share his photos, share his face. And again, thank you so much for being here and for listening to this episode. And we can create the change, you guys. We don't need the police to do it. We can do it together. So thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed it here. If so, you can subscribe to stay up to date on new episodes, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can subscribe to our paid episodes on Spotify only. That is subscriber-only episodes. Those payments help us greatly in being able to accept new cases and to help us continue to work. You can join in on any discussions on the Facebook group. You can join in on the case discussions and make case requests there, and you can find that link to our group in our podcast notes and also our website. But as always, stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, trust your instincts and keep seeking the truth.